Steel Curtain Network.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, one of the three hosts of the Steelers Preview Podcast. We are previewing a regular season football game. Yes, it is here finally. As we are going through these motions right now, there is an actual NFL game on right now. The Kansas City Chiefs and Detroit Lions are tied 7-7, but we're not here to talk about the Lions or the Chiefs. We're talking about the Steelers and the Niners. Joining me as always, Dave Schofield. What's up, Dave? How's it going?
It's going well. It's been a long, 7 months since the last meaningful NFL football game. The fact that there's just one on, even though I'd rather be here talking Steelers with you guys, just knowing that it's on and it's right there for me to see. It's just a great feeling. It just makes me even more excited for Sunday. I'm so glad that the Steelers are playing Sunday at 1:00, that we don't have to stick around and watch a ton of NFL games waiting for the Steelers to play.
The way God intended. Isn't that what you always say?
That's
Dave?
right. NFL game, 1:00 on Sunday when God intended football games to be played.
Bryan Davis. What's up, Bryan? How's it going?
It's going great, guys. And this is what we do. This is what we plan for. This is why we exist this weekend. And there's nothing sweeter than opening weekend. Well, this is why Steel Curtain Network
exists. I was going to be like, wow, Brian's getting deep and philosophical.
And so with that, speaking of philosophical, I want to quote one of the great philosophers of all time. Something that came out about 40 years ago. This quote came out 40 years ago. I would like to quote the great Lawrence Taylor, other known as Mr. T, when he says, "No more jibba jabba." So no more jibba jabba. And what we're going to do, we're just going to talk about real football, real games, games that count in the standings, games that count in the playoff race. Let's do it.
Okay. So we always start this show off, and sometimes I do have to kind of like go back and like, okay, how do we do this show again? Because it's been so long since we have previewed an actual game. We talk about the news and notes. We go over things like injury report. We definitely do the over-under game. We give our predictions towards the end. We still do trivia on this show. So that's all going to be broken up throughout the minutia of everything. I want to get your all's thoughts on something. And this is not anything that was like breaking news or anything of that nature. When you think of Minkah Fitzpatrick off the field, what do you think of, Dave? Off the field, not on the field. We know what he does on the field, off the field.
I always felt that he was pretty soft-spoken.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he just seems more like a mellow, soft-spoken guy, not to the extent of Troy Polamalu, but more in that mold than somebody like name any diva wide receiver you want to choose in that.
Sure, yeah,
in that category.
Okay, no, not a bad answer. There is no wrong answer either. Bryan, what about you? When you think of Minkah Fitzpatrick, what do you think about?
Throwback. I think of a guy that is more comfortable talking about the way it was back then. I feel like a guy that's a traditionalist, and here goes my final thoughts. My final thoughts were Minkah Fitzpatrick and what he did with the logo
in
the locker room.
That's where I'm going.
So all I'm going to say is this is a guy that cares about culture, and this is a guy that cares about team and respecting the game and respecting life. So yeah, I think a whole lot about this guy.
Okay, so for those people, the reason why I asked this was what Bryan kind of alluded to. So in case you didn't see the news, I guess it would say you broke on Twitter right after practice. The media's in the locker room, and Minkah Fitzpatrick in the middle of the Steelers locker room is a giant Steeler logo. Okay, it's just the hypocycloids. It's glorious. And so all Minkah Fitzpatrick, he was sick and tired of seeing people stepping and seeing footprints on the logo. So he went and got those like partition posts that can connect. They have the little retractable belt, looks like a seat belt, and they connect. And he put them all around the logo so that no one would walk on it. And I quote tweeted that and said, wow, he's taking a page out of the Penguins playbook, because if you don't know, hockey players are ridiculously superstitious, and in the Penguins locker room, there's a giant penguin, the skating penguin with the triangle behind it. You don't step on that logo. They take a rug that goes on the road with them, and you don't step on that logo. Like, that is a big thing with that team. And then I started thinking about Minka, and he was not a captain. I don't think he's ever been a captain, right, guys? Like, he's never been named a captain.
Nope.
And I think a lot of people, because like Dave said, he's very quiet. He's kind of, withdrawn. Most people don't think that he's like a leader. To me, this move that he did in the locker room, this move was akin to the shut the music off when Mr. Rooney is in the locker room. It spoke of respect. And what's really crazy, and all the things that Bryan talked about respect and all the background of the Pittsburgh Steelers, this team didn't even draft him. That's what's crazy about this for me. Like, Minka wasn't drafted by the Steelers. Now, the Steelers valued him because they went and traded a first-round draft pick for him. But, Dave, when you saw this, I know you saw it.
Yep.
What were your thoughts?
Well, honestly, my first thought was, okay, so they have the same logo at their locker room at Southside as they do in their locker room at the stadium, because I've been in the locker room at the stadium and loved the picture, the big logo, take pictures of the logo and was there and everything. So that was my first thing. Like, these two locker rooms look similar, which I think obviously would be intentional. And then I'm like, when I was there, I remember telling my kids when other people were going to do it, don't walk on the logo, don't walk on the logo. So much so the next year they actually put plastic over the logo. So I'm like, I get it, Minka, because that's the first thing I thought the first time I saw Steelers logo like that on the floor in the locker room. So I'm like, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. I know what you're thinking. I just loved it. I love the move. It's just like, hey, this is who we are. We need to know our place in this. We as individuals and what we do is not above that. That's the statement I took from it. Whether that's what he really meant or not, that's just the way I read it, and I love it.
Bryan, anything you want to add? I know you kind of chimed in on this before, but I want to give you another opportunity.
Yeah, first thing is, it's not disrespect out of anybody to step on it. These guys aren't thinking. They're, you just don't think, I'm walking. But to be able to think of be cerebral and know that this is important and enlighten others on, they're going to go along with this. Not only are they going to go along with this is the kind of story that people talk about when you're winning championships. They talk about this Super Bowl week. They go back to something like this. Now, if I go back 35 years to a different sport, I go back to Kirk Gibson and the Los Angeles Dodgers. He just showed up to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and in spring training, somebody put eye black on the rim, the inside rim of his hat. So when he put it on, he had eye black over his head, and they had a good laugh on it. But he went nuts. He went crazy. He says, this is why you don't win anything. This is why the culture is wrong. Now, I'm not saying Minka said any of this, but he said, this is not what real teams do. You're screwing around. We're not screwing around. So Minka's doing it almost the same way, but respectful, just saying, hey guys, we need to respect this process. We're a team and we respect where we are. So, it reminds me of that Kirk Gibson thing in a way. It's a way to bring people together without even trying. This is just Minka being Minka and other people following suit, and they learn that respect from a guy like this. He doesn't need to have a C on his chest to be a captain.
Dave, you're going to say something?
Yeah, and the Minka being Minka, I think, is the best way to say it, because there are different ways to lead. And it would be nothing for someone to stand up and say, hey, we're the Steelers. You respect that logo. You don't step on it and, kind of shout it out in the locker room and tell people how it is. Or you do it by actions. You go out and you put a rope around it where people can't. That's the impression I've always gotten from Minka. Go out there, let your actions speak. He didn't use his words here. He used his actions here.
I like to draw conclusions, and sometimes it's a little hasty on my part, but I like to do it anyways because what the heck? That's what we do. We get paid to talk about the Steelers. So I think back to Ben Roethlisberger's last year. Remember he talked about the music in the locker room, and he used to always shut it down and say, "Look, like if Mr. Rooney comes in, like you need to be quiet." And eventually he said, "I just got sick and tired of fighting it." So I'm trying to connect these dots here. I guarantee Minkah Fitzpatrick was a guy that sat back and he's like, you know what? I wasn't drafted here. These guys have been here a lot longer than me. It's what they do. But man, there's something that I really don't like about this. There's something I don't like about the way that they're handling their business. Minkah would let people know it. Ask Chase Claypool when he kicked his you-know-what in the middle of a practice leading up to a regular season game. He's not going to tolerate certain stuff. So now some of those people are gone. The TikTokers, so to speak. And I don't care. I really don't. Like Juju and Claypool and Marcus Allen would always do their dances and stuff, but they're gone now. And it's almost as if Minkah steps in and says, okay, this is more my team now, and this is how we're going to do things. And I'm sure that Cam and TJ are right on board with this, and Kenny Pickett setting the tone on the offensive side of the ball. I felt like the offense last year was like a rudderless ship in terms of leadership. No one was there until a rookie quarterback steps up in practice. So I thought it was a great story. I wanted to kick the show off with that because Brian, sorry for stealing your thunder for final thoughts. Wow. But I saw that and I was like, this means way more than just him putting stanchions around a logo. And maybe I'm drawing conclusions, but then again, that's what I feel. So take that for what it's worth. All right, I'll tell you what, we're going to take what?
Before we could say it right before the quick break. We got a celebrity in the live chat.
Oh, Captain Underpants.
We've got Captain Underpants. Yes. We've got the winner of winners.
Yes, congratulations. That's right. Captain Underpants in our live chat right now, or Mr. Brian Haynes, was the winner of the 4 premium tickets as a part of the Fans First Sports Network giveaway. Brian, congratulations. I wrote the article and got quotes from you the other day, so obviously we've communicated, but still I was really, really happy that it was a Steeler fan. I'm going to be having him on my Let's Ride podcast next week for a short segment to get a feel for what it was like. And I really hope it's a win. Brian, anything to add about Captain Underpants getting those tickets?
I was thrilled when I saw this, and I just want to point this out. I mean, I don't think it needs to be pointed out, but we don't select. This is somebody like a long ways away from us selecting this. We had no clue,
but that's why we promoted, because we wanted a Steeler fan
again. For sure.
So we might have promoted harder and stronger than everybody else too. So, but we wanted a Steeler fan to make it, and we did. And all I can say is, look, hey, Brian, Captain, just tell Dave and Jeff can do without me on Sunday if you want to take me to the game. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, I did see the list after the fact and the thousands and thousands of people that did put their name in the hat. So no, I had nothing to do with Brian Haynes winning this actual contest. So congratulations. We're going to take a quick break, one of 2, that's going to get a couple messages out from our sponsors. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, Steeler fans, we're back, and we're continuing to talk about the latest news and notes leading up to week 1, the San Francisco 49ers. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a really good game, and I want to go talk about the injury report before we go any further. So, Dave, do you have that injury report handy?
For the Steelers, I can, but for the Steelers wise, it's handy right here.
Are the Niners not out yet?
Oh, no, I don't have it. There's memorized. They've got way too many names on it. Steelers are only 2 names.
Yeah, but I want to go over some of those.
I got it.
Okay. Here we go. Injury report. Go ahead.
Okay, Steelers. I can tell you for what their Wednesday was. Wednesday was just too limited. It was Cam Hayward, not injury related. Larry Ogunjobi with a foot. There we go. I'll get that out right. He was limited.
Or Larry Foote with an Ogunjobi.
Yeah. I wonder if we had that. My goodness, was that 20 years ago? 15? Yeah. Then also you have on Thursday, Cam Hayward went in the wrong direction and they added stomach. Now, does that mean, like Lamar Jackson? Are you talking like internal, or are you talking like, I would assume if it was an actual injury, like if he strained something, they would say abdominal and not stomach.
Right.
So you can read into it what you may. He didn't practice, but I'm hoping that means that it's just something that he's going to be back for eventually anyway. But a lot of times he got Thursday off and not Wednesday at other times last year. So don't read into it too much. Ogunjobi was once again limited with his foot. So we'll see how that ends up going.
Give Cam some Imodium and he'll be fine. I do have to. There is something that's very bothersome about this Steelers injury report. It's not Cam. Man, I wonder if are we going to be on the verge of another Larry Ogunjobi season where he is on the injury report every freaking day before every flipping game? It's exhausting. Brian, do you think we're headed for that?
Yeah, but if we are, that's fine because he still played.
Can't we see him 100% though? Once, like once, just one
that's
time.
That's part of the charm. That's part of the mystique of Larry O.
A 3-year contract with a lot of money tied to it is what I see. Dave, do you think we're on track for that again?
The fact that we're talking about it now, you have to think that it's a possibility. I just really hope we're not talking about it in 6 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, because last year it wasn't just a foot, it was a back. It was like he had all these different ailments, and it just drove me insane. You knew he was going to play, but you also knew he was never going to be 100%.
Yeah.
And that's why in this offseason, Mike Tomlin's down in Florida, and they're like, have we seen the best of Larry Ogunjobi? He's like, oh, no, you haven't. Well, it's got to be healthy to see the best.
Yeah.
So we shall see. Let's go to the other side, though.
Yep.
There's some notable names on the San Francisco side. Dave, why don't you go over that?
All right. Unless it's someone really noteworthy that was a full participant, I'm not gonna do it. Linebacker Oren Burks was limited with a knee. This is just for Thursday. Safety Tashawn Gibson was limited with a back. Safety Talanoa Hufanga, I think I got that right, was
Good
first
player.
non-injury related. Now it's with a knee. Did not practice because he's got a slash. He's got a slash there.
He is. As on my Let's Ride podcast, I have Rob Stats Guerrero. He talked about him. He was an All-Pro last year, I think, or at least a Pro Bowler.
I just can't say his name.
He has a cyst on his knee or something, like in the back of his knee. He might not play. That'd be big.
Yeah. So those are some key ones. Tight end George Kittle, groin, limited. Running back Jordan Mason, foot, limited. Wide receiver Ray McLeod, wrist, limited. Kicker Jake Moody, white quadricep, limited. Cornerback. I always mess this up. It's Charvaris, not Chavaris. It's Charvaris Ward. Heel did not play. And defensive end Nick Bosa, not injury related, was limited.
Man, that is a laundry list for a week 1 game. And there's
they had 4 more names on there that were full, like Brock Purdy.
Nah, but who cares?
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. I mean, Brian, names that pop out. What do you got?
Tashawn Gibson, absolutely. Both safeties. I hope Stats could. I might have to call up Stats just to see if I could pronounce the last name. Hefuanga. But I know that I'll just call him TH, and TH is pretty good as well. So those are. I mean, that's an All-Pro player that you were talking about. 2 safeties going down. You have a you have another corner that is not as accomplished going up against Deontay Johnson. So that's really good. The other name that, of course, that I'm looking at is George Kittle. Groin, if he's limited, when I see limited, I kind of think that they're going to play, but the groin's tricky. But I will tell you one thing about George Kittle. He's tough. He's definitely he's no slouch as far as, we just talked about Larry O. And Larry O plays with a lot of toughness. He plays hurt with a lot of toughness, doesn't miss a game, but he's always hurting. So George Kittle's one of those guys that if he could absolutely go, he's going.
I agree with Brian real quick.
Sure.
But the question with Kittle isn't if he's going to play as much as how effective is he going to be based on the injury.
Or could this linger if he plays and aggravates it? It's the same with Travis Kelce on Thursday Night Football. I guarantee if it's a playoff game, he's playing.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's week 1. The one thing you don't want to do.
It's a non-conference opponent.
Right. So the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to have one of your very important players, in Travis Kelce's case, a star player, go out on the field, aggravate an injury, and now all of a sudden it's a 3, 4, 5 week injury and not just maybe a, hey, let's sit out one and we'll get you back in week 2. That's something that it's considered. We'll see how it goes. I want to get this super chat up here. Tom Miro, or Tom Plays Games, gave us $2. Happy New Year. Go Steelers. Have to watch the game. Yes, we will watch the game, and we will be back after the game on Sunday for the post-game show, so make sure you check it out. I do want to say there's a lot of people that watch on Facebook or on YouTube who have asked, where's the Know Your Enemy podcast? Because we used to have that on Wednesdays. That was Jeffrey Benedict and Shannon White. They would get a guest sometimes. And so I have absorbed that into my Let's Ride podcast weekly schedule. Check it out tomorrow morning, Friday morning, anywhere you get your podcast by searching Steel Curtain Network or Steelers. Really great podcast with Rob Stats Guerrera and also Jeremy Betts in the second half, where we talk about all things 49ers. Gives you a real good glimpse from the other side. I call it the behind enemy lines with him. And so check that out if you're wanting to get a little bit more information pertaining to the 49ers. So I know a lot of people have asked about that. All right, so there you have the injury report. It's very notable. Let's talk about some keys to victory. What is it going to take for the Steelers to win? Now, Dave, I want you to put yourself in Matt Canada's shoes right now. You're going against a really, really good defense. And you have those injuries that you just mentioned. You also have Nick Bosa back. I love TJ Watt's quotes today about when they asked him about Nick Bosa coming back. He goes, Nick Bosa is going to be a problem because he's going to be fresh. He said his issue will be in weeks 2, 3, and 4 when he is dealing with the soreness and the soft tissue stuff that he's not used to. But it was very telling because he was in that situation just 2 years ago. So, Dave, if you're trying to draw up a plan, like what are some of the things you're focusing on as the Steelers offense going against that defense?
Well, Steelers offense going against that defense. Okay, specifically, this is where that infamous B word that Jeff loves to throw out there that isn't always what people think it is, imbalance, doesn't mean that you have to run it as much as you pass it. It means you have to be able to do either one if that is what the game is dictating. So if the defense is really stacking up on the run, you've got to be able to throw the ball effectively. If they're going to drop back and defend the pass, you've got to be able to move the line of scrimmage and run the ball. You've got to be able to vary your game plan. Now, the 49ers are a good enough defense that they could just be like, you know what, we're going to cover it all. Come at us. Then go at them in a variety of ways. The biggest thing, in my opinion, it's been this way for several years now, goes back to Randy Land. I can't believe I just said that, is don't let them know what's coming before the ball's even snapped. Don't tip your hand just in your personnel and your alignment that they know what's coming before the ball's even snapped.
Don't be predictable. Yeah, absolutely. Brian, what about you? What is something that Dave didn't mention that if you were on the offensive side coaching, you would be helping to formulate a plan to go against that defense?
Yeah, you know what? I like what Dave said. But I'm going to say when they drafted a guy like Darnell Washington, they became less predictable if they use him the right way. I would like to see a 1995 approach with, we still know Najee Harris is the number one guy, but I'd like to see a lot more of Mr. Jaylen Warren as well. So if you can go ahead and spell him in the middle of drives. Go ahead and put those guys in, give them an opportunity to just cross them up a whole lot more. So when Dave says be unpredictable and not be predictable, but show some wrinkles that you haven't shown. It looks like in preseason they showed a penchant for the long ball a lot more, but they could afford to go long and go with those plays because you're seeing if everything works. Now, are they going to get conservative all of a sudden? You don't want to do that. So spread the ball around. Nobody worry if there's no 100-yard receiver. But if there's a lot of 30, 40, and 50-yard receivers on this team, then that's a 300-yard passing game for Kenny Pickett, and you're unpredictable because you cannot go ahead and double cover anybody, because if you're too worried about player A, then player B is going to murder you.
Let me ask you all a question before I go into something that I just thought of on the offensive side of the ball. How much stock do you put into a player that maybe is new to your team, but might have experience against another team? How much stock do you put into what that player could bring to the room and be like, hey, I know these guys, they like to do this, this, and this. Dave, do you put any stock into that?
Okay. So you have a player that was
player that's new to your team.
Yeah.
And they might be familiar with an upcoming opponent.
Okay.
How much stock do you put in what that new player to your team is giving you in terms of input?
Well, I'll give you the Dave answer. It depends on how recently they were with the team and how much coaching turnover you've had since they were there. You know, someone coming from the Steelers probably going to have pretty good information because of not a lot of turnover. If you're talking about someone like, I don't know, Joey Fisher coming from San Francisco in their training camp, and now he's on the Steelers practice squad, that's very recent. You could have a decent idea of what's going on there. If you're talking about Ray McCloud with the 49ers, that's probably a little bit too far removed.
Bryan, what about you? What do you think about the new player input? We'll call it a portal. Sure.
Well, Allen Robinson was just on the Rams. So he was facing off against the 49ers for at least 2 seasons. And so he knows kind of what their tendencies on defense are. And he's one of those players that's a veteran that is actually a locker room leader and a coach already coming in. So you're going to listen to a guy like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think if Dave's right, though, it just depends how long. But, you know, a guy like Ray McCloud is still he's still going to know Mike Tomlin. And he's going to know certain things that they do, because even though certain things change, some things don't, because there's a culture and there's a way you play the game year after year after year. And if he was just on this team in 2021, then you know what I mean? They might be asking him some questions, but he might not know everything as much as, like Dave said, a Joey Fisher would. So it would be really interesting to see how they do that. But I think coaches would go ahead and ask, you know, hey, what do they normally do in this situation? But they're not going to base their game. Good coaches and a good coaching staff isn't going to base their game plan on trying to get intel. But, you know, everything helps.
The player that I'm thinking of is actually Isaac Seumalo. As a member of the Eagles, I mean, the NFC Championship game was such a huge game going against San Francisco. Don't think that he doesn't have a good grasp of what the 49ers would want to do as a defensive front. Oh, and by the way, the guy that he went against in practice a lot in Javon Hargrave is now on the San Francisco 49ers, and you might have some intel there. I just thought about that in terms of he's already a smart guy, and I think he's going to be really trying to help some of these young guys out and giving them little tips and tricks. He might be someone that they might lean on and say, hey, you guys beat this team, and I know it was weird circumstances with the third quarterback rule and all that stuff. It's just something to think about. Dave, what do you think?
I'm just going to say that's a very interesting point that you brought up with Seumalo. What I think that's going to benefit more is familiarity within his matchup and things that he can share, probably to the guy with the guy to his right and the guy to his left.
For sure. Yeah,
in their little bubble. Right. Rather than a whole thing. But that's a great point.
I'm thinking like offensive line room. Like the offensive line's talking, and Seumalo's probably like, look, I know what this guy likes.
This is what we did in the championship game last year.
The NFC championship game last year. We did this, and this, and it negated what they do so well so often.
Yes. I didn't even think about him. That was a good one, Jeff.
Yeah. Every now and then I get a good idea. So, okay, let's go.
You got to write this down. Jeff, good one.
Good idea. September, whatever day it is, the 7th. All right. Let's go to the defensive side now. So we're going to start with Bryan. You're Terrell Austin. And you are now tasked with trying to figure out how to mix and match your defense against Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuels, Ayuk, maybe George Kittle. Again, a very tough task. What are you having your defense do to try and slow them down and minimize the damage?
Well, it's that short passing game that you're really looking at that is going to be tough to defend for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But for the first time, that they probably have the ability to have somebody spy a little easier, especially when you're talking about those inside linebackers. You have more accomplished inside linebackers that can cover, can go into coverage. And so you have a more athletic defense as well. So it's, this team changes with George Kittle. And we've already talked about that. If George Kittle's in the game, it is a different team than if he's not in the game. Because I'm watching Kansas City and Detroit out of the corner of my eye, and Kansas City is not the same team without Travis Kelce. And I think when you have a tight end that is not only physical, that is able to go ahead and try to neutralize, or would be more successful at neutralizing a guy like TJ Watt than a whole lot of other players, and who's capable of going down the middle and just killing you with that 10 to 15 yard catch and then yards after the catch, then you've really got to be concerned with that. So you do have an athletic defense that you can spy and you can also cover, but you've got to really put a lot of pressure, find a way to put pressure on Brock Purdy. And what has been a very good offensive line is not the same offensive line as what it used to be, because now you have the best left tackle in the game. So the guy that came over from Washington, Trent Williams. But on the other side, your right tackle is Colton McKivitz. And I know him from West Virginia University. He was a good player, but he's basically a BJ Finney type. He's your swing tackle. He's your guy that he's not going to be used to, handling a guy like TJ Watt. So he really needs a George Kittle in there. So you'll see what happens. But if you can just put a lot of pressure, and I know this is the backup quarterback, Sam Darnold, but if you could make Purdy see ghosts too, then, well, you know what? You're in a situation then when you can really rattle a guy that hasn't had a chance to be rattled because he had a better offensive line last year.
Great point about Kittle with the help, because that right tackle is going to need help. I mean, if they try to put him on TJ one-on-one, that's going to be a recipe for disaster. Good points. Dave, what about you on the defensive side of the football?
Well, my brother said something really interesting on Scobro that got me thinking. And he said that whichever defense succeeds more at getting the second-year quarterback off his game is going to win the game. And to me, the best way to get to Brock Purdy isn't just hitting him and sacking him all the time. It's to take away his binky, Binky McCaffrey is that should be his nickname, because that's what he is to a quarterback. He's that what you don't like that, Brian?
I like that. I like that a lot.
Okay. It's that thing that you go to, you turn to. It's soothing. It's what you need more than anything. When all else goes wrong, that's where you go. So if you could minimize, if you could take if you take away McCaffrey, you put more pressure on Purdy to perform. So that's what I would really like to see the Steelers be able to do.
So again, I was listening to some of the player availability with the Steelers locker room, and Patrick Peterson, who I really enjoy listening to hear him. I love listening to him talk. I mean, he's genuine. He's very thoughtful when he speaks. He answers questions thoroughly. He's not just pushing, moving guys along. He made a comment that made my ears perk up, basically stating that the 49ers have some tells. and they're ready to exploit them. And I'm like, oh man, we always talk about Mike Tomlin teams and their defense having 2 weeks to prepare. This is interesting. Are there some tells? It kind of reminded me of, does anyone remember the tell that Ben Roethlisberger once had? His mouthpiece. So he'd go into the huddle and he would call the play with his mouthpiece out. And if his mouthpiece was still in his helmet, it was a run play. But if it was in his mouth, it was a pass play.
That's right.
It was like 2004, 2005, like that. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's that simple, but still, there's been quarterbacks that if their foot is a little bit further back, it's a run because they're trying to get a step on, turn and pivot or whatever. I'm interested in that. That's very telling, pun intended, for this upcoming matchup. But it's going to be a really good game. I really am looking forward to this one. We're going to take a quick break. If you're watching, Dave, you want to say something before the break?
I was going to clean up just a couple things from the live chat right before the break. I knew we were going. Okay. Gavin asked, don't they have Mike McGlinchey? He ended up in Denver. So he's not on their offensive line anymore. That's why Brian knew exactly who they had there. Someone asked earlier, what is the weather for Pittsburgh on Sunday? As of right now, it's 70% chance of thunderstorms, 74 degrees. And this is a quick thing for Brian. Somebody asked about the if the Q&A is going away or being moved.
You know what? I do have I had a conversation with Jeremy Betts, and so he is going to start a mailbag because the Q&A is now going to be on YouTube around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday mornings, so we can get that out. But he wants to do a mailbag, so he has some questions ready in case some of you aren't up or had too much icy light the night before. So what we're going to do is we're going to have that, and that will have a nice shelf life to get you through your Saturday and get you all the way up to game time if you have questions. Because you know what? If we do it on Sunday night, well, the game's already over. And then you're asking questions about next week, and but we don't want to put that on Sunday night. We've got a post-game show to do. Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to have it. It's not going away. We are keeping it. It's being repackaged just a little bit. And I've noticed though before that when you get that little buzzer that says, hey, there's a Steel Curtain Network show on, it doesn't matter what time. Now, you'll get on. When I did Bad Language, I had people on the West Coast yelling at me, but they'd still come in the live chat. They'd still come on. It's like, why'd you make me get up early? So that's what we're going to do. We'll make you get up early, but we love the fact that you're here.
Do you think it's as exciting as when you used to go to a restaurant and they'd give you the little disc and say when it buzzes, your table's ready and your buzzer goes off?
Oh,
like, yeah.
At the movie at our movie theater now, if you get food there, they give you the little buzzer and you're in the movie and you're like, oh yeah, it's not even the previews yet.
That's great. Almost Pavlovian because when you see it, you're just like, yes. I mean, I have stared at it before, and my son, we've looked at it both and go, come on. Flash, come on. Yeah.
All right. This is
and Afton, yes, that is Eastern time.
This is okay.
I did not steal that from, I did not see that. Afton said it is rather Pavlovian, Jeff, but I said that before she wrote that.
There you go. All right, now we're going to take a quick break. If you're watching live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, we're not going anywhere. On the audio form, we'll be back right after a word from our sponsors. All right, Steeler fans, we're back, and it is time for my favorite segment of the week. I did not forget this segment, and that is the over-under segment, the segment where I think of this week six different over-unders, and these gentlemen, including myself, we all take a stab at whether it's going to be over or under for the upcoming game. Dave, you are keeping track, yes?
Yep, I will keep track of these. I got the handy-dandy notebook ready to roll.
All right, awesome. Let's get this started. We're going to start off in the sack department. Pittsburgh Steelers sacking San Francisco 49er quarterbacks. We'll assume that's Brock Purdy. I have the line set at 3.5. 3.5 team sacks again. This is not like just Trent Jordan. This is the whole team. So we'll start with you, Brian. 3.5, over or under?
I'm going to go 3, so we have to go under.
Okay. Dave, what do you think?
I don't know why I thought you were going to go line of 4.5, which would have put me under. But for this one, I'm going over because I'm going 4.
Okay, I am thinking under at 3. I think they are going to get a Purdy, but it's not going to be a lot. They like to get the football out of his hands quickly. It's going to be tough, I think, to get him. I hope I'm wrong. Now let's go to the other side, and that is San Francisco sacks of Pittsburgh quarterbacks. In this case, we'll say Kenneth Shane Pickett. We're setting the same line at 3.5. Brian, over or under?
You know what? Crap. I'm actually going to say 4. I'm going to say over. I don't think it's going to kill them, but I think they're going to be able to get to Pickett because I'm thinking Bosa, like you said earlier, he is not going to be having those soft tissue problems, and I think he's going to get to him twice, just like we saw TJ Watt do against Buffalo.
All right, Dave, 3.5, over under.
I agree with Brian I think Bosa could get to him twice, but I don't know that anyone else is going to get. I don't know that the rest of the team's going to total 2. I'm going under with 3.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I'm going under with 3 as well. So I have under on both of those, actually.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to some individual player statistics here. Deontay Johnson receptions. I have it set at 6.5. 6.5 receptions. Brian, what do you think?
I'm going over.
Okay.
Dave. I think he's the guy for them. Sorry, I just think he's the guy for them.
For sure. Dave, 6.5.
Although he's the great guy for the short game, and I could see them. I'm glad you said receptions and not targets.
Right.
Because targets would have been a whole different thing. If there's a chance that it's going to be rainy and everything, I'm going to say under. I'm going to say it's either 5 or 6.
Over with 7 is what I'm going with. Over with 7. All right, let's go with George Pickens. Total yards, 65.5. Brian, 65.5. What do you think?
Oh, that's so juicy, Jeff. You're back in you're in mid-season form. Look at that. I'm going to say over.
Okay, I hope you're right, Dave.
I hope he's right too, but that's a lot. But he could get over half of that on one catch. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. You know what? Brian and I have been the opposite so far. So we've got to agree at some point. So I'll say over.
DJ might get the receptions, but Pickens is going to get the yards. I've got over.
So you said that was 65 yards?
65.5.
65.5. Okay.
Yes.
So I said over.
You know we've got to bring up Kenneth Shane Pickett. My gosh, we haven't talked about KP8 yet this entire show, really. Kenny Pickett touchdowns. Notice, just touchdowns, not passing touchdowns, total touchdowns. So rushing would count for this as well. Pickett touchdowns, I have a 2.5. Brian, what do you think?
I feel good with 3. Okay. Over.
Dave?
I like to think of the number before you say your number. So I go accordingly. I had the number of 2 in my head, so I'm going under.
I, too, am going under with 2 as well. And then the last one, the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive takeaways. I have the line set at 1.5. Brian, what do you think?
Let me go 2. Over.
Okay. Dave?
I will follow suit with Brian. I'm going to go 2 just because it's early. It's early in the year.
All right. I'm going to go with under with 1. I think they get 1 takeaway, but that's still going to be under the 1.5 line. So we differed a lot in this one.
We only agreed, all 3 of us, on 1.
Oh, good. I like it.
And that was George Pickens. So he's destined to not get 65 yards now.
There you go. Okay, so now it's time where we review the latest odds and everything. I looked up the MyBookie numbers since we're sponsored by MyBookie. Dave, do you have those, or do you want me to just read them off?
MyBookie? I don't have MyBookie now. Okay, I don't have those.
Well,
MyBookie is not my bookmark. So
since they sponsored the Steel Curtain Network, they have the San Francisco 49ers giving 2.5 points on the road with an over-under set at 41.5. 41.5. So those are according to MyBookie, official sponsors of the Steel Curtain Network. And so, Brian, we want to know your final score prediction. What do you have this game How do you see it shaking out, I guess I should say?
All right, I am going to go with the over because I could do some math in my head finally. And I'm going to say that the final score is going to be 26-24, Pittsburgh Steelers.
Were we giving our score predictions yet?
Yeah.
Are we? Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
So wait a second. I got to write these down. Okay.
Brian's taking the points and he's taking the over 26-24 Pittsburgh.
So he's going Pittsburgh. He's going over in 26-24, you say. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I am also going with the Steelers to cover. I'm doing some quick math in my head, and the quick math in my head says that I am also going slightly over, because the way it plays out for me is this. The Steelers will have had the lead 20-14 to give up a late touchdown to the 49ers and go down by a point. But with probably not even a minute and a half left of the game, KP8 comes through where he doesn't have to get into the touchdown zone. Just got to get him in Boswell range. I'm going 23-21 Pittsburgh.
We are all pretty close here, and I've said it before on other shows. I've done a lot of them this week. I think this is the Steelers' toughest test of the season.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, and I think, Dave, you said that on your Stat Geek. I think you also said it on Scobro. After talking with Rob, who covers the 49ers, he spoke about the kicker injury, and he said that this is a guy who, I think he's a rookie, dealing with some issues. They think he's going to play. Pittsburgh is a tough place to kick, especially if it's raining. I see the Steelers clinging to a 24-23 lead. The 49ers get in field goal range and the kick sails wide, and the Steelers hold on to win 24-23 in what might be a classic game. Like it could just be one that we always talk about and remember, and really interesting stuff. So I hope you make sure you check out Let's Ride, but also 24-23 Steelers. So I've got the over. Steelers getting the points for sure. Love it. Absolutely love it. So there you go. We all three picked the Steelers. A lot of people in the live chat right now are agreeing. Some people are saying Steelers win in overtime. That would be, I really would not like that for my cardiovascular health, but other than that,
and I knew I was going with this number on Tuesday, and Sherry threw out that same number. I'm like, oh, Sherry, you're just gonna have to wait till Thursday. So she did, and we had the same we had the same prediction there.
All right, do you both have trivia tonight?
I indeed do.
Okay, because you know I do. So when you're asking if you both have it, that's
I really just mean does Brian have it? Okay, Brian, go ahead.
All right. So the Pittsburgh Steelers are playing the San Francisco 49ers. They have played before, and they have played on opening day before, but that's not what my question is all about. My question is, they shared a quarterback at one point, a quarterback that left the Steelers to go to San Francisco and had some of his best years as a 49er quarterback, including a 5-1 record in 1991. Who is this quarterback that played for both the Steelers and the 49ers consecutively?
Played for the Steelers and the 49ers.
I have no clue. I'm literally trying to think about this. I can't.
The thing is, I don't know if it's, oh my goodness. I'm thinking of just quarterbacks and everything in general, but I can't think about if they, what era they were with the Steelers and if they went on anywhere. Early 90s. Who would it be? Early 90s. That would have, you said, when did he start in San Francisco?
He actually started in San Francisco. He went to San Francisco after the 1988 season. So he played for the Steelers in 87 and 88. In 89, he started, but had a 5-1 record, replacing Joe Montana, and Steve Young. He replaced those guys, and he also replaced players in Pittsburgh as well, especially in 1987.
Oh, it was a replacement. Okay. Who was that?
But
Jeff?
not a slouch. Not a slouch. It's a guy you know.
Wasn't that? The only person I can think of that I don't remember him being a Steeler, but the only person I can think of that followed up Montana and Young, wasn't it like Steve Bono or however you say it?
It is indeed Steve Bono.
Was he with the Steelers?
He was the replacement quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1987 during the strike.
I do not remember that.
Yep.
Yeah, I knew that when you said he was the quarterback that replaced after Montana and Young. That's the only reason I knew that.
He resurrected his career with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
There you go. Good stuff. All right, Dave, your turn.
All right. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Jeff loves talking about it. When's the last time they opened up at home? What happened?
Oh, Antonio Brown kicked a punter in the face.
Yeah, it's been a really, really, really long time since the Steelers had their week 1 game at home. So what does the NFL do to the Steelers when they do that? They put them at home the first 2 weeks. When's the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers opened up at home the first 2 weeks of the season? This is all I have. I don't have like follow-up questions or anything like that.
Last time
it's nice and tight tonight.
The last time they had back-to-back home open games.
Yeah, not back-to-back years, but week 1 and week 2 were both at home in the same season.
I don't remember.
I know, oh my gosh, this is going way back. I know 97, it was Dallas and then Washington because I was at one of those games. I'm going to go ahead and say, let's see. Wait, 90. No, it wasn't 95. Yeah, I'm going to go with, let's just go with 87.
87?
Yeah.
Why didn't you go with 97 like you said? Because that was the right answer when it was Dallas.
Oh, it was. That's what I meant. I meant to say 97. I was
going to say. I was like, don't go further back. You already pulled it off with 97. You were exactly right. They opened up. They lost to Dallas 37-7, and then they beat Washington 14-13. And that
I was at the Washington game.
Yep, and that's the last time they opened up with their first 2 games at home. So that was at Three River Stadium. They've never done it at Heinz Field / Acrisure Stadium.
Nice. Good stuff. Really interesting stuff. All right, let's do some final thoughts and call it a show. Brian, you can go first.
All right. My final thoughts are this. This is what we've been waiting for. This is why we all get together here. And this is why Steel Curtain Network exists. So we can talk about the dawning of a new day. And this is to me, this is the beginning of the Christmas season. To me, this is my version of Black Friday. It's okay, you have Thanksgiving, it's there, and now let's get started. The silly season begins, the fun begins, and this is what it's all about. Stick around here with Steel Curtain Network for all of your Pittsburgh Steelers needs. We're going to have so much more. We're going to have so much fun. And remember, Jeff has somebody from the 49ers tomorrow. We have access, now that we're Fans First Sports Network, to so many more voices. And we're going to be bringing those to you. So enjoy this season. It's going to be a special season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's going to be a special season for us here at Steel Curtain Network and Fans First Sports Network. Thanks for being on the ground floor with us.
Very good. Dave Schofield, final thoughts.
All right. Well, I want everyone to know, because this is your last chance where we'll be able to say it live. I'm going to try to put it in the live chat. It didn't work last week. It worked on Scobro, so we'll see. It's our contest. It's the signed Donnie Shell Hall of Fame football contest where it's skill. It's not just random name pulled out of the hat. You can show your skill in picking one game of any winner each week. You just can't use the same winner twice. Unfortunately, you're too late if you're not in to use Thursday night's game. The deadline is Sunday at 1:00. I put the link It's gone out to the Facebook, to the YouTube. It's there in the live chat. Make sure you go ahead and enter there if you haven't already to get into that. But my other final thoughts about the Steelers game is kind of what I was talking about Tuesday night. Is this is probably that we know right now, because you could look at the end of the season, you're like, oh, wow, you still got to go to Seattle. That's a long way away, and things could really change by then. But right now, this appears to be the most daunting task on the Steelers on the Steelers schedule, possibly. It's really nice that they're playing it at home. And I know Steelers fans the last couple of years have got used to the team pulling the upset in week one. If this team doesn't manage to get the upset, it's not that that the sky is falling. They will be able to turn around and play again in week two. But you know what? There's just something about this team that upset just kind of sounds more and more appealing. And the line's coming down a little bit and everything else. So just get your popcorn ready, find it on TV, listen to it on the radio, whatever you got to do, and enjoy the game on Sunday. It's been a long time. Let's get to it.
Yes, and like I said, we'll be back for a post-game show, so make sure you check us out there live on Twitter, Facebook, and on YouTube. In the meantime, Dave, why don't you send us out like you always do?
Hey.
See you next week where we preview the Week 2 game. Take it easy, everyone. Enjoy the game.
Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.